Okay, you have to control yourself. But for the recording, I'm just going to be defending that the mind is physical. Whenever I make the claim that the mind is materialistic, it just means to say that it's constrained under some physical model. And then obviously, this nigga said he's taking some very vague, immaterialistic type of position. I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, just materialism is false.
Okay, that's really retarded. So when I would like you to justify that, and then I guess as an opening on my end, I would just talk about how my point is going to be something which seemingly is more semantically parsimonious, alongside the
But you were
fact that
defending the
all
first
the
proposition.
I'm sorry, could y'all please control them? But when it comes to my view, it's going to be the case that obviously there exists some semantical parsimonious or some semantical parsimony, and then alongside that, it seems as if every single immaterialistic position can be reduced down to some contradiction, given how movement is going to be something which is only expected under a physicalist position or some non-materialistic position, but it follows that for every single immaterialistic position, it would have to be the case that the constraint model is not going to work. In other words, the movement or momentum follow. Obviously, there exists a contradiction. So, what would your response be to that type of argument or response?
Oh wait. So the argument this. So physicalism, we'll call mind materialism just physicalism. Period. And we're saying like the mind is constrained by some physical model. By that, do you just mean that like a lot of our knowledge as to like the causation behind the mind, or
Look. Okay, I'm not sure what type of this debate this is going to be. I'm not sure if you're one of those debaters who just ask questions because you're really confused. But look, just to clarify my position, I'm just going to want to say that the view that I take, that fits under what I said, dumbass. But that fits under what I said, dumbass. I said you're really confused. Answer the confusion. I'm sorry. Could you please mute him? So just a response.
Wait, are we doing talking stick?
I'm just going to say. Oh my God! Yes, obviously, bro.
Okay.
Just a response to the confusion, real quick. I'm going to want to say that obviously my point is going to be more. Okay, bro, are you good? Anyways, to respond to the confusion real quick, I'm just saying that my point is going to be more semantically parsimonious, as most immaterialistic people are going to want to say, at least immaterialistic commitments are going to want to hold to the fact that under a physicalist position, these phenomena are still able to be explained, but they're also going to say that there exists some other reduction, some other foundationalist principle behind the explanation. They're going to say that is going to be the mind, which is immaterialistic. So it follows that under my materialistic position, it follows obviously that there exists some reduction in which is going to be down to a specific primitive concept in comparison to two primitive concepts is going to be all reduced down to this physical state of affairs, or in other words, this physical codification in comparison to both a physical codification and a non-physical codification. Alongside that, when it comes to the reductive contradiction point that I was making, it seems to be the case that most immaterialistic hypotheses are going to want to expect that there exists some type of movement or reflection of the mind onto the brain, or in other words, mental to brain state phenomena. And it's the case that that's obviously going to entail a contradiction. So it just seems as if the position you have is very, very retarded. So I need to hear the response. And please actually respond to the view. Don't just gibberate like a low tier.
So your response literally is just, there seems to be some explanatory connection between brain states and physical and mental states, and then any type of way for me to fucking posit a non-materialist theory would require me to be non-parsimonious. But that doesn't seem to be true for every non-physicalist theory. That's definitely not true for cellular monism. That's definitely not true for panpsychist theories or objective idealist theories. So it seems like and it seems like broadly you're just saying physicalism is when there's some physical constraint on the mind. There are plenty of strictly non-materialist theories that would be physicalist under this view, like dualist theories, where like, for example, naturalistic dualist theories like David Chalmers, which would hold that there's a causal constraint of the physics on the mind, right? For example. So I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Maybe if by this you just mean, look, we need to involve naturalistic hypotheses or in science to explain the mind. Nobody fucking disagrees with that. Nobody disagrees with that. You're just doing a trivial bullshit.
So just to clarify, this is really retarded. A lot of people actually disagree with this. A lot of people are going to want to say that these naturalistic invokements that we have relative to the hypothesis that an immaterialistic commitment is going to want to take is going to be contradictory. It's the case that I can hold the view that obviously these naturalistic descriptions, when it comes to the mind, obviously if the mind is reductive down to these naturalistic descriptions, there exists a contradiction for the immaterialistic hypotheses. So it obviously is going to be the case that a lot of people can disagree with this. Some people are going to want to say that there doesn't exist physical and non-physical interactive power. I apologize. Some people are going to want to say that there does exist physical and non-physical interactive power. And I'm going to say as a response to that, that's obviously contradictory. So whenever you comment on how all these positions can hold the view that there exists some naturalistic description, I'm saying that that's obviously going to be them conceding to the type of physicalism that I hold to, or type of physicalism that I hold to. You fucking retard. Also, I never made the claim that with any immaterialistic position that you take, there's going to be some non-parsimonious virtue. That's not what I said. I said when it comes to the overall materialistic position, at least the non-vague, or just the vague one that you have currently speaking, my point is going to be something which is more parsimonious, semantically speaking, given the fact that I have one primitive in comparison to your two primitives, if we were to grant that you're talking about some reductive domain. So if it's the case that you're commenting on a physicalist reductive domain, at least when it comes to the brain states, and then you comment on a non-physicalist reductive domain when it comes to the mental states, if you were to say that these phenomena are reductive down to both, that's going to be two foundations in comparison to one. If I were to just say, and let me just make this clear, you dumbass retard, in comparison to if I were to just say that this one primitive concept is going to be something which is able to be reduced down to by everything in terms of the phenomena are able to be reduced
So
down
wait,
to this one physical constraint. But also just to clarify, hold on, let me
look,
finish
if
what I
you
was
don't
saying.
stop yapping,
Hold
I'm
on,
just
just to
gonna look
clarify,
here until
just to
I
finish
piss
what I
down
was
my
saying real
throat.
quick. All these
I'm gonna put my
phenomena,
entire
all these
hissing
types of
mouth in your
positions,
shut
all
the
these
fuck
types of
up.
positions are going to have expectations which are incompatible with the type of position that I'm holding, and that's going to be the expectation for this physical and non-physical interactive power. And I'm going to want to say that even though they may not be direct announcements, when it comes to the positions, they're inconsequentially going to have to entail these type of expectations, which obviously is going to infer a contradiction, leading into my view. So when you make the claim, well, I don't have to disagree with your view under this view. Yeah, I agree that you could be retarded and ultimately concede to my position. That doesn't really do anything. So explain.
Bro, this motherfucker does not stop yapping. Okay, so look, so the point he was making earlier is that look, there could be different interactive powers, whatever the fuck he meant. He was saying that one theory is positing that there's these quote interactive powers, and the other theory is positing that there isn't these interactive powers, and I'm positing two different types of substances. But notice how I was talking about monistic non-physical theories like Russellian monism or panpsychism or objective idealism, right? Under all these monistic theories, right, they're primitive. The mind is one primitive. Now, unless you want to say that that's contradictory, right, to some, broadly non-physicalist or whatever your idea of the non-physicalist theory is, then sure. Now, you also want to say that he was talking about it being reduced or semantically reducible. A physicalist, or at least in the most contemporary definitions, do not need to require that it's semantically reducible. And even with the interactive powers argument that he was saying that the physicalist, the physics, physics causes stuff. Epiphenomenalists, like dualists who are epiphenomenalists, would very clearly say the mental does not have any causal interaction. They just disagree about the metaphysical explanation occurring, right, for certain qualities that the mental has. Now, if you just want to broadly support, oh, look, my view is more parsimonious, sure, your view may be more parsimonious, but parsimony is one virtue among many, and parsimony is only makes your theory better than another theory, all things considered, right? So look, what's going to happen is what's going to predict. So this is what I'm predict. He's going to say, I'm doing a tracking error. I'm not listening. I'm yapping. My point's irrelevant. And then he's going to yap in the most inane gibberish for 10 minutes. And I'm actually going to put the clock, and it's going to be 10 minutes, right? So you can go.
Look, bro, making these obvious predictions because you realize that you're losing badly does not look good for you. Oh, he's going to make the claim that I'm not tracking, even though I'm currently not tracking. Yeah, that's how that works. If you obviously perform an action, I'm going to notice that and announce the fact that you're performing that action. Correct. Yes, I'm glad for you're able to realize that you're not fucking tracking. Now, in response to all the shitty points that you made, when it comes to all these positions of which you named, I already explained why there's an instantiation of incompatibility. Whenever you comment on these immaterialistic positions, they're obviously going to want to say that these foundations are going to be reduced down to the materialistic, I apologize, the immaterialistic type of notion, or in other words, the mind. But for these positions to work, it has to be the case that the mind is non-identical to the brain, which most people are going to want to posit. So if you take that the mind and the brain are non-identical, because obviously the brain is going to be something physical, so that's going to be a contradiction if you take that they are identical in terms of my view. It's going to be the case that if you follow with the position that the mind and the brain are non-identical, then it is going to be true that there exist two types of reductions because all these mental phenomena are able to be reduced down to the brain, and that's a known fact. That's trivial. So it's going to be the case that you're going to have to also make the claim that these mind states are going to be something in which are reducible down to the mind as well, or these mental states will be something which is reducible down to the mind as well. So that's the type of ideological parsimony in which is going to cause your position to fail in comparison to mine's. So yes, I'm explaining why I'm more sympathetic towards my position. I'm going to make the claim that my position is more ideologically parsimonious and semantically parsimonious. So whenever you comment on how that's just one virtue out of many, the issue is that no immaterialistic position is going to have any virtue in which supports it, any relevant virtue in which supports it. In response to everything else, you fucking dumbass retard. Anyways, in response to everything else, you fucking dumbass retard, you didn't respond to how the mind and the constraint is going to be something which is correlated to the physical expectation. So under a hypothesis and which is correlated to this physical system, it follows that there exist these expectations. These expectations are going to be something which is actualized. If the expectations are something which is actualized, that means that there cannot exist any immaterialistic mind hypothesis in which actually follows given that these expectations are actualized. So that's going to be a response to that original point that you made. And yes, like I said, you didn't track. I want you to repeat the points that I made since you think that you tracked. Explain how your positions are going to be something which are relevantly incompatible with mine. When it comes to my response to the constraint model is not going to be something which is effective, given that any type of constraint model which is proposed is automatically going to have to entail some type of interactive power. Now, I don't think you understand the overall position. I'm saying that if it's the case that you're not talking about some interactive power between the mind and the brain, which obviously is going to entail a contradiction, in other words, result in the defeat of your shitty ass position, it follows that you're going to have to take some position which is less ideologically parsimonious, which is going to be a virtue in which we use to favor specific positions. I'm just explaining why my position is going to be something which is favored. I never said my materialism was true or something like that. My materialism is going to be true in virtue of the fact that there exists a contradiction for any non-constraint model. Even when it comes to the constraint models, I believe that those types of models entails contradictions. However, independent of those type of models, when it comes to my, there exists, unfortunately, you fucking dumbass, retarded ass transgender bitch, some less ideologically parsimonious aspect of your own theory. So respond.
Wait, I'm surprised it was only 3 minutes. There was like a couple points where I was like, oh wait, he's gonna stop, and then he didn't, which is crazy. Anyway, so look, your point now. It seems like your point is you again are just like claiming that I'm confused again. So I'll just ask you a pretty clear question, right, Infinity? I'm going to ask you a pretty clear question. What exactly is the contradiction? Right? Is the contradiction that the mind is reducible to the brain and the mind is not reducible to the brain? Is that what the contradiction
So terrible.
is?
This nigga is so fucking terrible. Mute him while I'm answering the question. Look, so everybody in the of debater that I thought he was going to be. He's one of those shitty ass KG lounge debaters who has those shitty ass KG axioms who just ask questions every single fucking second because they have no substance. So for the recording and for everybody in the VC, I'm going to explain the contradiction again. So the contradiction is going to be under some non-constraint model. It's going to be the case that obviously under some non-constraint model, the person who has the hypothesis relative to the mind is going to want to say that there exists interactive power under some non-constraint model. However, there exists a contradiction in interactive power because that's something which is only expected under the physicalist type of position. The interactive power is going to entail power. Power is going to entail some physical system which exists. Therefore, there could not be any type of immaterialistic fact in which these systems are reducible to. You fucking retard. Now, when it comes to the constraint model, I'm going to want to say that these positions that you named are going to want to announce the incompatibility with the constraint model, because as the non-constraint model or model, and when they're going to want to say that there exists a constraint model. But I'm saying inconsequentially, the expectations in which are something which are held by these hypotheses ultimately entail the constraint model or non-constraint model in the first place. There's always going to be interactive power. And if there is an interactive power, because we already know, trivially speaking, that these brain states are able to explain all these phenomena, it follows that you're going to want to say that the phenomena are both reducible down to the brain states and the mind states. That's the last time I'm repeating that type of fucking point, you dumbass bitch. There exists one foundation in comparison to two foundations if we're talking about a constraint model. However, it's the case that there's a non-constraint model, but it's the case that even independent of a non-constraint model, your point seems to still not be something which is true or that we're pumped towards. This is basic. You have to listen up, bro. I can't just explain my points to the entire debate. You have to give your own arguments. Like, this isn't a Q&A. I'm not here to amp you. Fleur. What the fuck?
I love when he sits here and he like beats his chest like consistently instead of actually engaging because he wants to hide behind rhetoric because he doesn't actually have any substance. He doesn't actually read any of these topics. But look, we can be pretty simple. All I want to point to the fact is like, look, it seems like you're saying that any type of non-physicalist theory, in order to posit interaction, has to posit some sort of physicalist theory because they have to talk about physical constraints, which then seems to just show that your view was also trivial. It just shows that it just shows that in some broadly general sense that your view is just physicalism is when physics interacts with the mind. Now, obviously, you're going to do this, this semantic dodge from pre-cog.
Fleur, he lagged out.
You're going to do this other semantic dodge, which you did prior, right? And the dodge that you're going to do again is you're going to say, well, that only gives the fact, that's only true given the fact that mental states are identical to brain states, right? But you can have physical constraints regardless of whether or not there's an identity relation. For example, you can have grounding relations, supervenience relation, and even a variety of different physicalist theories. Now,
Fleur, Infinity lagged out. Could you repeat what you said?
Because he's a little.
Wait, hold on, Fleur. I'm gonna mute that nigga. He asked you to repeat something.
Wait, let me refresh my Discord. I'm lagging, and then you can repeat certain points that you made. Hold on.
Okay.
So how are we doing, guys?
Bro.
Shut up. Soon.
No one is trying to
You're
hear
fruity
this during the
pebble eating ass
recording.
nigga.
Shut your lame ass
I
up.
didn't know.
Who
I didn't know
who's
y'all
gonna
like.
speak?
I'm back.
I didn't know
Go
y'all actually were gonna waste my time with a legitimate gibberator.
That's
ahead. Okay, look, guys, rhetoric. You can still dissent rhetoric later. What was the response to the point that you had, or do you want me to respond now?
Linearization.
You say you should repeat something, right?
Yeah, what do you
Yeah,
want
you
me
can
to
repeat the middle part. You can repeat the middle part. Obviously, I don't know what I want you to repeat. I wasn't here, dumbass.
What was
but
the
you can
middle?
repeat
What was
middle part.
you don't know what the middle part was?
I'm not sure what the middle part was because I lagged out. Are you
What
fucking
was
retarded?
the middle part?
Look, I guess
You
I'll
couldn't even
respond
track.
broadly.
You never
Look,
remember
I'll
what the middle.
respond
You
broadly.
knew what was prior to
He
the middle
says
part.
that it's
You
not
couldn't even
tracking.
track
Mute him. Let me
the
speak. Let me
question.
mute him.
Could you
Hey,
track
mute him.
what prior
Hey,
was
mute him
prior
real
to the
quick.
middle
Hey, mute
part?
him real
Wait,
quick.
hold on. I'll mute
Baby
both
girl,
of y'all.
baby girl.
Look, whatever you think the medium was of your whole little rant, Fleur, you should just repeat that part, and then he can infer whether or not it's going to be relevant. Just do that instead.
I'll just put my entire rant into a couple points, right? We'll just put it in a couple points. Summarize it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So one, it seems like his explanation of the contradiction was that a non-physicalist theory wants to posit interaction. In order to posit physical interaction, it has to posit a physicalist theory because it requires some notion of constraint. But the notion of constraint was like what I charged his view was, which was it being trivial. So it seems like he just admitted that his view was trivial. But then what I precog is he's gonna say it's not trivial because what he said prior, because they're in order for there to be some type of physical constraint, we have to posit, that only works if you don't posit an identity relation or whatever. But that seems trivial because that seems wrong because there's other types of relations like supervenience and grounding relations. And then I'm also gonna get to the point where he wants to, for me to try to give some argument for my position. And that's mainly because he's dodging like a little cuck bitch because he can't actually defend his materialist position. And he can only just sit here and spam consistently. Now, if you want me to actually give an argument for a non-materialist position, you know what? I will. I'll give an argument for a non-materialist position right now. Give me 1 second to set. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm running the clock down to like match my time with Infinity real quick.
Where are you? So you finna give it right now, right?
Yeah. All right.
I bet.
So, P1. Ugh. Sorry. Fuck. P1.
But just to be clear, hold on. I'm about to ask him.
Physicalism or true.
Hey, hold on, Fleur. Maybe you didn't ask him.
Bro, what the fuck kind of moderation is this? The nigga said, if I would like the nigga to give an argument. I don't want the nigga to give an argument yet. I want to focus on my point. And then he can give
You
his
know what a
shitty ass
conditional
argument.
is, bro?
Let me respond to the nigga. That's why I said if, dumbass. You fucking dumbass nigga named CC Cup. Bitch ass, gay ass. Anyways, to respond to the point real quick. Hold on, look. When it comes to all these grounding relations or the supervenience relation, those type of relations are going to have to expect power. So unless you're going to want to say that the immaterialistic mind has no actual power towards the brain or these phenomena, which are going to be redundant and obviously less intuitive, trivially speaking, it's going to follow that they have some type of relation which entails power. So once again, it's going to be expected under the physicalist position, or in other words, the mind materialistic position. You fucking retard. That's what you're failing to track. The ideological parsimony is something which is only true, or I apologize, only relevant if we're talking about some irrelevant, redundant position. You fucking retard. So I'm going to want to say that unless your argument is going to be constrained, or I apologize, non-constrained, it follows that there exists some ideologically parsimonious point in which favors my position in comparison to yours. And then whenever you comment on how I can admit to my position being something which is trivial, maybe you're fucking retarded. I agree that my position is trivial, but when it comes to it being trivial, that just means to say that it's obviously true. I agree that my position is obviously true, which is why I'm defending why I'm sympathetic towards the fucking position. Maybe you're autistic in that regard. Look, I did give a response, or I apologize, some type of point in which is going to point towards people. When it comes to people who favor my argument, you didn't respond to that point. All you're saying is that you can give some argument in response. If you want to give an argument in response in terms of your own position, then we could talk about that type of argument after. Do you have any response in regards to the actual points that we're talking about currently?
Look at this holy shit tracking error on this motherfucker's response part. See, the tracking error was that I brought up these relations in regards to physicalist theories. I'm saying physicalist theories typically composite a variety of different types of relations. That wasn't even in regards to what the non-physicalist theory was stating. Obviously, if I was talking all the non-physicalist theories, I was being inclined to defend throughout this conversation were monistic ones, which would posit some sort of identity relation with the world and that there's a primitive mind. Now, look, I'll just ask a simple question, right? Under your physicalist view, right? is there something it's like, or could there be something it's like, given the semantics for your physicalism, could there be something it's like to be a chair, or something it's like to be an electron? Are there like phenomenal properties that exist that can exist under review, like independent, like just within objects and within minds? You know, is like qualia some like really primitive, basic thing or part of the world? And it seems like if this is the case, then it does have the similar charge of being trivial, which is the non-physicalists wouldn't even disagree with this, right? At least the non-physicalists that I'm talking about wouldn't disagree with this. And if you're just going to say, well, yeah, it's trivial in the sense it's obviously true. I didn't come here to defend the negation against bachelors or unmarried men, right? I came here to defend like substantive claims that nobody's going to disagree with. If you're just saying that your view is obviously true, then look, we can grant it. You know, I'll grant. You know, if it's obviously true, if it's so obviously true that not even a non-physicalist would disagree with your view, fuck, I concede. I'm like, wait, actually, let me turn on my camera. I'm gonna bow down and concede. Okay. Oh fuck! I can't hear on my camera. Like, just imagine me bowing and conceding that you defended that like some like really trivial, obviously true point, and wasted my fucking time on the internet. And I am apologizing that I came on here and wasted my own time speaking to you, and wasted my own breath speaking around you. I'm so
this nigga
sorry.
is so bro. Mute this nigga, bro. Like Ernest, bro. Ernest, you have to be a better mod, bro. Mod isn't just talking stick. You have to be able to control the debate, control the pace, etc. My nigga, mute this nigga. That shit was so fucking corny. Nobody found that shit funny. That shit was zesty as fuck, my nigga. I'm not simp. I don't want you to flirt with me in VC just because we're debating, my nigga. That shit was corny as fuck. The only nigga laughing was a nigga named King Mikey, my nigga. King fucking Mikey. That's the only nigga defending that joke being actually funny. Now to respond to everything that you said, when it comes to, I'm sorry, could y'all please mute whoever that is? They just unmuted to laugh for no fucking reason to interrupt me. Anyways, is he
I
muted?
love you, Infinity.
I love you too, man. Thank you. Whenever you comment on how a non-physicalist would actually posit some type of position that I name, look, the position that I'm arguing for, particularly speaking, is going to be one in which comments on how the mind is constrained to some physical model. The non-physicalist is not going to want to say that. The mind and materialist is not going to want to say that. It's not trivial in that regard. Whenever I comment on how my position is trivial, I just mean to say that all competent people like me, Careless, Hermes, are going to want to commit to a type of position that talks about what my position talks about. You dumbass retard. Whenever you ask me a question, which is talking about the reductive capacity of phenomena such as qualia, or all these properties in which are true of chairs or independent variables or ontic variables, it's the case that yes, they can be reduced down to the same type of phenomena, I apologize, the same type of systems or primitive concepts, namely a physical system. So the physical system is going to be the primitive concept within the situation. In comparison, originally speaking, to the physical system and a non-physical system, or in other words, the materialistic system, in which you're going to want to say that these phenomena are reductive down towards. You're going to want to say that the phenomena are reductive down towards either the physical phenomena and the immaterialistic phenomena, or just the immaterialistic phenomena. But we're obviously going to want to say that the latter's trivially false. And the reason why the latter is trivially false is because we do 100% have priors pointing towards the fact that all these phenomena, such as qualia specifically, for example, is going to be something which is reducted down to brain states. It's explained by neuroscience. Now, when it comes to response to everything else,
You good?
Is it me?
Judge.
This nigga,
all right, yeah, turn up the
Who's
box.
playing music?
this nigga Infinity mic went out.
Okay, when it comes to all the other positions, yeah, when it comes to, for example, bro, what is wrong with my Wi-Fi? Anyways, when it comes to the, for example, the primitive mind, it's the case that the primitive mind is going to be something which only works if it has interactive power. So obviously that's going to be something which disqualifies the fact that all these phenomena are reduced down to the brain, which is trivially false. I already explained why that's going to be false. I can send empirics for that. And additionally speaking, when it comes to the reducibility, it's the case that the mind is going to have to be something which is independent from the brain. I can grant that the mind is going to be a primitive concept.
Oh, really corny, bro.
Okay, so I'm not debating it here again, but I can grant
Really
that,
corny.
yeah, under the hypothesis that the physicalist takes, it can be the case that the mind is also a primitive concept, but the type of mind we're talking about is going to have a distinct substance. It's still going to be composed physically speaking. The mind is going to be explained within a physical system. I can say that the mind is going to be an employment, or in other words, the allowance or employment of qualia, but it's the case that that type of qualia employment is going to be some physical constraint. It's going to be under some physical model. So that's not going to be something which actually is effective. It's either one, the case that the mind is going to be redundant to mention because it has has no interactive power, or 2, it has interactive power and entails a contradiction. Obviously, if it's redundant to mention, and we know that all these phenomena can be explained by materialistic facts, or in other words, brain states, it's going to be the case that nobody's going to favor your position. And I'm just simply saying that I favor physicalism, or in other words, my materialism for a particular reason. I apologize, 2 particular reasons, and it's going to be the ones that I proposed originally speaking. Now, do you have an actual good argument, or are you going to keep on jumping around, bowing down to me because you want to be degraded like a shitty ass, gay ass fucking kink?
Notice how infinity is again doing this slip. Okay. Notice how infinity is like doing this little slippery tactic. It's like a really classic slippery tactic where he goes and he does this like Mott and Bailey thing where he like does like, no, I'm just merely saying that there's like interactive power under my theory, that the physics, that there's some type of physical interactive power, physical constraints, and which is like really cucked of him and also expected of most physicalists. But look, the point is that he was like, no, I'm just saying there's interactive power. And then he goes in and makes this stronger claim that actually it's reducible to brain states. But I didn't qualify that this was even required for a physicalist view. Unless he's just saying by a physicalist view, I just mean reductive brain physicalism. Which, you know what, if he wants to do that, fine, then I can actually argue that that there's not really much evidence that all mental states can be reducible to brain states. And it seems like he never actually provided this evidence. He just sit here and he hemmed and hawed like a little bitch, right? Constantly sitting here and moaning and crying, right, about how he has all this evidence. Let me see this fucking evidence. But this obviously also can't even deal with any poignant concerns about semantic externalism or anything like that. But that's fine, right? But also, he didn't even point to the issues with the quail view, because the quail view wouldn't even disagree with what any of the neuroscience has to say about brain states. In fact, the quail view might say that how we experience certain types of, the view where all the mind is really fundamental, how we experience the world as having, certain phenomenal properties, and the way that we experience these phenomenal properties can be explained by brain states. No fucking hands I guess is disagreeing with this. So unless he's saying, well, no, that's just trivial. That's like a obviously true point. That's like, let's not disagree with anything. Yeah, obviously we agree. Your view is trivial, right? If that's trivial, then also your view is trivial, right? Right? We can all agree that everybody's view is trivial and boring, right? And you wasted my time on the internet. And I'm really sorry that you had to get to the point where you wasted my time on the internet. And I was supposed to be doing stuff tonight. I was really happy, and you wasted my fucking time on the internet. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Like, bro, yo, Ernest, bro, you have to do a better job moderating, bro. This nigga is venting in my fucking ear.
Let him have his turn.
Infinity a go!
Bro, this nigga is riding his dildo while he's fucking debating me, bro. Ernest, I know you hear this nigga whimpering every single time he fucking gives a response. I know you hear that shit, bro. That shit is so weird.
I love you, Infinity!
Yeah, but just to clarify, the reduction. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I love you too, bro. When it comes to the reduction, I'm not just talking about brain states. It's the case that it can be reduced down to all these physical systems. It's not just talking about brain states. Brain states are going to be an example. When it comes to things such as qualia, I can say that that's going to be something which is actually expected and compatible. So there exists 2 separate points. Let me just clarify. Some expectation is independent of compatibility. I just want to clarify that I do believe it's expected, but even if it's not expected under the physicalist position, it being compatible with the physicalist position is something which can still be true, meaning that there wouldn't be a disqualification of the position just because there exists this novel prediction. I apologize, this lack of a novel prediction relative to this type of fact. Because, for example, you can have a hypothesis regarding the non-identicals of the brain. I apologize, the Earth and Mercury, and then there exists obviously stars. Stars are going to be something which are not expected under the hypothesis that Mercury and the Earth are not identical, but it's the case that it's still compatible. That type of fact is compatible. When we say expected, that implies some type of connotation that this is known given a hypothesis. All the data within the hypothesis is something which accounts for this type of fact being known. It isn't a novel prediction. While, for example, stars isn't something which is expected under the physicalist the hypothesis regarding the identicals of the the Earth and Mercury, but rather they're compatible. Are you good, bro? Yo, I ain't gonna lie, Ernest, bro. You gotta fix that.
I don't know who's talking to,
Anyway,
I guess, VC.
And when it comes to reductive brain states, when you ask me for evidence, I can send the empirics, but you have things such as neuroplasticity, in which actually is able to explain all these phenomena, particularly qualia is able to update It's able to update our brain when it comes to learning new experiences. It's able to understand all these concepts, etc. And then, like I said, it doesn't have to be reductive down to brain states. It's just reductive down to some physical system. When it comes to the physicalist hypotheses, it's going to want to obviously assume the physical constraints, or in other words, physical systems that codify all these phenomena. It's the case that power. That shit was so corny. Anyways, when it comes to power, that's going to be something which movement requires. It's going to be something which reflection requires. It's going to be something which relevant supervenience requires. If it follows that all of these type of foundations require power, and power is only expected under some physicalist or materialistic position, then obviously immaterialism is going to fail, or qualia is going to fail if you're trying to reduce qualia down to some non-materialistic. Yo, anyways, qualia is going to fail if you're trying to reduce. Yo, whoever the fuck that is, bro. I ain't gonna lie. It's obviously going to fail if you're trying to reduce qualia down to some. Yeah, it's obviously going to fail if you're trying to reduce qualia down to some immaterialistic fact or some unknown fact. It cannot be unknown because it's going to have to be dichotomous. It has to be immaterialistic or materialistic. It follows that it cannot be immaterialistic, therefore it has to be materialistic. Let me just clarify. If something is immaterialistic, that means it also has to lack space. It's going to be aspatial. If it is aspatial,
Oh my
okay, y'all
god,
please
nigga,
stop.
shut the fuck up. Holy
Yo, Hermes, chill, bro. But
You a hoe
obviously,
for real, nigga, bitch ass.
That's not me. It's public. Yeah.
bro, it's
Infinity is a go.
it's the possibilist. It's the possibilist dude, bro. But ban him. Ban possibilist. But anyways, when it comes, like, they're trying to keep me off my train of thought. Anyways, when it comes to the qualia state is only going to be relevant if you're trying to mention it to bring up some reducibility down to some immaterialistic fact. But it follows that if it's an immaterialistic fact, that means it's aspatial. If it's aspatial, then consequentially it's going to be non-physical. If it's non-physical, then it cannot fit under physical constraints. It's going to be a contradiction. It's the case that things such as interactive power or have power is going to be something which is only expected under a physicalist position or hypothesis. And it's also going to be something which is only compatible with a physicalist type of claim, commitment, or hypothesis, okay? So I need you to give an actual response. You tried to mention external, I apologize, semantic externalism. I could be a semantical internalist or externalist and still grant that physicalism is going to be something which is more ideologically parsimonious and something which is more, I'm not sure why you brought up those two positions, or something which is obviously going to be led into given proof by contradiction. So nothing that you said actually responds to any fucking point. I'll send the empirics even though I don't really need to, given that I already explained how these phenomena can be reduced down to like neuroplasticity and everything like that. But I got you, man.
Is he muzzled?
Mhm.
Okay, that's thank you. Anyway, look, you notice he did the thing that I said he was gonna do, which he did prior, which he kept doing, where he did the on Bailey. So he kept talking about how he kept being like, oh, well, we have all this evidence to suggest that the brain, right, can explain all of these qualia, these mental facts, right, like neuroplasticity, etc. And he was going in and giving this as like his main point, his consistent main point right here, consistently. We can go refer back on the recording because we've been recording this shit and watched this motherfucker, right, referring to this as like his main point consistently. And then when I brought up externalist concerns, he was like, whoa, I mean, like any physicalist theory could have account for externalism. Almost any physical theory can account for externalism. And it's like, whoa, that was the whole fucking point I was giving earlier, where it seems like you were just flip-flopping between these really strong physicalist positions, and that obviously would contradict a non-physicalist theory, and a really weak sauce beta bitch cucked on the chair watching its wife get fucking railed and impregnated by me specifically position, which is obviously really trivial and wasting my time. So either you're not wasting my time and you have a substantive position, or you don't. And that would seem like if your substantive position was then this a whole other thing. Now, if anyone wanted to give this argument, and I'm gonna be very clear, I'm gonna open it to you. I'm gonna fucking ignore it. And the reason why I'm gonna fucking ignore it is because he's just gonna use this argument as an excuse to prevaricate, to obfuscate, to run away like a little bitch, right? Because he doesn't, he knows what's going to happen to him if he keeps going down this line of his view being fucking trivial and wasting my time, right? He knows what's going to happen. He knows what's at the end of the maze, right? It's a nice little glass of Kool-Aid with GHB in it, right? And he's going to drink it, and he's going to get really dizzy, right? And he's going to pass out. He's going to wake up the next morning.
Thank you, bro. Yo, like, come on. Yo, Ernest, I just want to point this out for the recording because this looks really, really bad. The only reason why he's giving these long ass fucking monologues is because he doesn't have any fucking points. He's just stalling to come up with shitty ass fucking points. Please stop being freaky with me, by the way. I'm a minor. I'm just gonna let you know that right now because maybe you didn't know that. I'm a minor. You don't have a dick to fuck people's mothers with. You are a cuck yourself. You got cucked by Synth and Apollo. I don't know why you keep on trying to mention those shitty ass rhetorical points. Now, whenever you comment on how I'm switching between a strict or strong version of physicalism and then a weak version of physicalism, all I'm saying is that people should favor my position, namely physicalism, or in other words, my materialism, because for some reason we're using them synonymously within this debate, even though the debate is my materialism. But sure, let's say hypothetically it's fine to use them synonymously. No, I've been sticking with the same position the entire time. The only reason why retards like you and Gyro, for example, think that I'm switching between a strict version and a non-strict version, or in other words, an unstrict version, is because you can't track. So yes, you keep on trying to bring up this rhetorical point where, oh, you're predicting what I'm doing. Yes, predicting obvious patterns is not going to make you look good. It's obvious that if you be retarded, I'm going to call you retarded. So whenever you say, whoa, he's going to do this meta thing where he calls me retarded. Yes, correct. Now, when it comes to the fact that my position is consistent, that is going to be something which I already explained. We're talking about non-constraint models first. When it comes to the non-constraint models, the type of expectation in which is present is going to be something which contradicts the hypothesis. Therefore, non-constraint models do not work. Next, let's move on to constraint models. Constraint models, when it comes to all these positions that you named that you can possibly talk about when it comes to alternative reductions, are going to be something which may not announce the fact that they're non-constraint in actuality, but rather they actually consequentially do lead into these non-constraint models. Now, let's say hypothetically for the third point, they don't lead into these non-constraint models. It follows that when it comes to this constraint model, if it is the case that there is no non-constraint version of this model, or in other words, there's no non-constraint reduction, which is obviously going to entail a contradiction, it's going to be the case that the position is just redundant. I don't think you're understanding that point. So it's going to be redundant. If it's redundant, then nobody's going to be sympathetic towards that fucking position. It's retarded. You just keep on mispronouncing these words, mispronouncing all of these points. You don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. You're just a freaky ass, dinky ass debater. I feel like your real purpose is to be freaky. Do not mute me until I get my empirics, by the way, because I understand the tactic. The tactic is stalling so he can make me forget about getting the empirics. But guess what? That's what low tiers do. Me, I'm able to track, unlike you. Okay? So give me a second, Ernest. Let me get my fucking empirics.
Just put it in the side chat so I don't get drowned.
I got you, man. Well, no, I'm nah. Because if he can't keep up with the chat, that's him. He can't keep up with the debate or the chat. This nigga just gay.
Speedy
Nigga not
fingers.
good at anything but being gay. Oh, God. Nigga got honey on his buns. Titty booty ass nigga. Get this shit.
You're doing so good, Infinity.
Thank you, bro.
When you send the empirics, like, I probably put a mute
Yeah,
so you can
hey,
respond.
careless. Yeah, so you can see the empirics. This justifies everything that I said. Also, I just want to clarify before you mute me when it comes to me sending the empirics. All these phenomena, which possibly may not be explained directly, given my announcements of the physicalist position, does not at all entail any sympathy for the non-physicalist position or towards the non-physicalist position or immaterialistic position. It's just the case that I can say that there exists some epistemic restrictions or some epistemic limitations which does not grant the current discovery of the reductions. But does that entail that there exists likelihood for your type of position? No, I can say that with all the powers I have currently, there seems to be a scale for my hypothesis and which is more favorable in comparison to the alternative hypothesis. But it's the case that there exists specific phenomena which may not be explained by a physicalist position. Now, they can be compatible with a physicalist position. I haven't heard an explanation as to why they're incompatible, but rather, seemingly, there just wouldn't exist any epistemic axis, which does not at all make your position look good, you dumbass twink, okay?
Bro, did bro just literally stall for 5 minutes while he was accusing me of stalling? Wait, can I
I mean, he was
did
looking
he
for
just
the
like
source.
stall, like trying to look for these empirics while he was accusing me of stalling?
Hey, man, who knows? It's a mystery. Scooby-Doo.
That's
But
crazy.
do you have a response to the
That's
empirics?
wild.
You want to, like, cite it or something? Like,
So
anything
he
for
also
evidence?
admitted to doing the thing where he did the flip-flop thing as well, right? He admitted to doing that. But then he was saying, no, it's actually virtuous when I'm doing it because it's a debate tactic.
Well, I'll put a mute so he can clarify for you. We talk over each other for a little bit.
No, he's gonna
I'm
talk.
sorry, by the way, just for everybody to know,
Please,
I'm not, by the way,
please,
yo, Mito.
please, he's
Look,
gonna
just
keep
for everybody to,
yapping.
yeah, I want everybody
Yo,
to
this for
notice.
this for like 2
Look, I
seconds,
want
2
everybody to
seconds.
notice. I want everybody to notice. I want everybody to notice that as soon as he was unmuted, he tried to be rhetorical, waited 10 fucking seconds. It was 10 seconds of silence because nobody actually agreed with him. Nobody found him funny. There was no laughter in chat at all, other than the ones that were pointed towards him, not with him. And he just didn't do anything. He didn't respond to any point. So to answer your question, no, it wasn't me stalling. It was me being a good debater and getting the empirics, which obviously is going to take time. I don't know if you think I'm the Flash, you stupid kinky bitch. I don't know if you like fast niggas who come fast or some shit like that, but the evidence doesn't come fast. You have to wait for the evidence, you dumbass bitch. I know you're used to fucking these niggas who come fast, but that's not what the evidence does, okay? So respond to the fucking point, you tweaky kinky ass bitch. Nobody at all admitted to flip-flopping their position. I'm explaining how my position is going to be justified given all these alternative reductions, you dumbass retard. I'm saying that no matter what way reality is described as, it follows that it is impossible for my materialism to be false, which is obviously controversial. That's obviously controversial. Whenever I say my position is trivially true, that just means to say that competent people agree with it. Ice Hermes, careless me. That I already clarified that. You have to fucking listen, track, dumbass. Your rhetoric is terrible. Stop trying to be rhetorical and actually focus on the fucking points. You sound retarded, okay? You sound ass. You're literally the leveled up version of Quark, nigga. You have more badges. That's it.
Oh my god! Why did you do that to me? Why did you unmute him? He's just gonna
I want to
yap.
clarify for like 5
You
minutes.
just let him yap, but he's just gonna yap. He just yapped. That's all he did. He didn't do
The thing is,
anything. He
it could
just
be yeah, but
yapped.
still, like you could argue why it's not
He
substantive.
just yapped. He just, baby, please don't make him. Yeah, it's like this should be like classified as like one of the CIA torture methods they did to like Saddam Hussein when they were interrogating that motherfucker. Like, holy fuck, I want to blow my brains out when I hear this motherfucker talk. Like, I legitimately like want to like paint the walls with a slug. Holy
Okay, wait, hold on
shit,
though.
he just-
Like y'all can like be rhetorical and stuff, but look, at least Infinity, he's arguing as he's being rhetorical, right, Fleur? So like you should say what you have to say, but at the same time, just the evidence that you put in chat, I tagged you in it. And they'll go from there.
All right, let's just go through the source. Why don't we just pull this up? Let's just go through the source.
You can ask some questions, the citations, and all that. I tagged you.
Yeah, let's just go through the source. This is the last thing I'm doing tonight.
And also,
Okay,
this to be clear,
this is the last thing I'm doing. I wasted my time too much on this. I thought I was gonna have some fun. Neuroplastic.
Okay, if you're gonna go through the source, then like first, hold on, Fleur. If you're gonna read the source, I'm gonna unmute him because you're gonna have questions about the source. You can ask him. He can direct you towards certain things in the source. I'll just let you know, and you can stream. Yeah, go ahead.
Why can't we just like read the source together?
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Shut your freaky ass up, bro. You probably get hard when you
Why
another
wait?
nigga.
You're gonna give me a source that
mute.
claims that's like supporting of your position, but apparently it wasn't even supporting of your position now because now you did this thing where you rhetorically slithered away like a little rhetorical snake, like a dialectical worm, right? Digged yourself.
Yo, this nigga is trying to be rhetorical, bro. All these niggas' lines are corny, bro. Like I gotta understand if you actually ask substance.
Corny, right? Nobody gives a fuck. We're not trying to be
He can't control himself. Yo, he can't control himself. I character corny, bro. Because you're trying to be funny, you're trying to be rhetorical, you're trying to get some type of upscale. Nobody finds you funny. Nobody finds that you're getting an upscale. None of your points have substance. It just looks fucking embarrassing. A dialectical snake, bro. Are you dead ass? Why do you keep thinking of these long objects? Are you that horny, bro? What is wrong with you? Like,
hold on, for both of y'all. Look, the stream is up and the source is being streamed. Or you can read the source, I guess. If you have a question for Infinity, I'm gonna let you talk to him. I'll unmute him. But until then, just read the source.
Let's just read the source. So let's actually go through it.
Or
go through it. So where in the source will I find the proof for like the brain being explanatory for qualia?
Yeah, so it talks about how the concept is going to be something which, let me finish it off, sir. So could you please mute him? So I'm pretty sure it was later in the paper. It talks about how the concept is going to be something which is allowed for learning, and obviously qualia is going to be correlated to learning, is going to be the the first-hand subjective experience that you possess. So we're going to be talking about how the brain is going to model this information that is gaining from this first-hand subjective experience. And it's going to, like I said, it's going to talk about how the brain is modeling its states of affairs off of this new information. And that's going to be something in which must require some physicalist account given the type of constraint model I talked about. Given some type of physical system I talked about correlated to the power. Then I also will have more sources. I'm pretty sure it's later on. I'm not sure exactly where they talk about it, you can use your eyes and read for once. But I'm going to send more evidence, and then we can conclude like this is so low tier. No, don't say that, Careless, because I said everything that I said.
What? You didn't even tell me. You just said like what it's generally talking about. I'm reading the abstract. So neuroplasticity, the ability to make new connections, essential.
But why do I keep getting muted, bro? I just said I was getting more evidence.
You're getting muted. Be quiet.
Focus on this piece first.
Learn.
Why do you stutter each sentence,
Learn your place.
Are you?
Hold on, Infinity, I got you. Let her read the source first, and then into the question response, I'll talk to you.
I'm going to read this abstract, and if it's not in this abstract, this is what you're going to do for me. You're going to tell me exactly where in this source do you have your supporting point, right? Which you also admit this is not even like really relevant to your view, right? Because you were also saying that you could have some more broader physicalist view. But I'm going to read this abstract, and if the abstract doesn't say what you said, which is that the brain is modeling like certain aspects of your subjective experience in order to create qualia, right?
Are you there? But the reason why you're on mute is because she wants to read the source first and then talk to you. So I'm going to do that. Fleur, are you here?
Wait, I'm back.
Yo, Ernest, I don't know if you're trolling, bro. I'm gonna say this again. The source overall is commenting on what neuroplasticity. Yo, mute him, bro. Mute him. Let me explain to the moderator. Let me explain to the moderator.
Be quiet. I'm gonna read it out.
Bro, Ernest, no, let me, bro, Ernest.
For 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and you got it.
No, Ernest, let me explain to you, bro. Let me explain to you. Stop being dumb, bro. I'm trying to explain that the source overall covers what neuroplasticity is talking about. The type of concept that the type of concept it is overall governing the type of adaptation for new information. The information is going to be something which is gained off this qualia. And if it's a case that is gained off of this qualia, there has to be power. And that's going to be something expected under the physicalist position. I already said this. So the source is just basically explaining this type of model. And if the source overall is explaining this type of model, then there's no need for him to go through the entire fucking source as long as it's verifying that there does exist this type of model in the first place.
I understand that, but she's saying what citation do you have in the actual source? Like what line is
That's not what the nigga asked, but that's not what the nigga asked. You can look down below and all the citations, just like any other paper are at the bottom, but do not mute me yet because I want to get something else in which supports this, bro. Like, damn, bro.
You did ask that though, but yeah, you can.
Yeah, when it comes to the neuroplasticity, when it comes to neuroplasticity, when it comes to, bro, yo, Ernest, bro, what do you have to add, bro? What do you have to add so important, bro?
Let's meet you afterwards. What do you mean? You can go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah, just let me say two things, bro.
You got it, I got it.
Damn, bro. When it comes to the neuroplasticity, this is going to be a concept in which is not controversial. If it's not controversial, obviously, look, I understand that you don't really know that much because you're really retarded. But like I said, I'm going to send more papers. This is going to be confirming what the concept talks about. That's all it needs to do. So obviously, if the concept talks about this inconsequentially in virtue of the argument that I gave originally speaking, when I say inconsequential, I'm talking about in virtue of the source. But in virtue of the argument I gave originally speaking, the type of claim that I made is going to be entailed. And whenever you comment on how this is going to be relevant, or I made the claim that this is irrelevant, given the fact that I can take some broader type of case of physicalism, which I'm still confused on why we're conflating physicalism and mind and materialism. But anyway, mind materialism. But either way, if we take those two things to be the same, that you're not retarded. You're retarded. You're not listening. What I said was that even under, actually, I don't even want to repeat it. I'm not helping you, bro. I never said that I can take some broader account of physicalism, which makes this irrelevant. I said that this is something relevant. Overall, however, it's the case that it doesn't need to be talked about for my physicalist position to be true, or my mind materialistic position to be true, which just because it doesn't need to be talked about doesn't mean that it isn't relevant. Dale, it's relevant to the current topic. It doesn't have to be relevant towards requirements for a physicalist commitment. I don't have to commit to the fact that qualia is a known reducible fact.
Yeah, Fleur, go ahead with the source and all the questions you have.
Okay, so look, so literally the point was like something specific in the source, but also he's just making the broader claim that neuroplasticity in general points to the fact that qualia is really like explainable or solely explainable in terms of the brain state, which is like, I don't see how this is the case, and I don't see anything about the topic of neuroplasticity unless he's saying something like we learn new facts, like, and when we learn new flat facts, or like our brain has like new like things it learns. There's like neural correlates. Like nobody disagrees with that. So like nobody disagrees that there's neural correlates when there's like, that doesn't mean that it's sufficiently explanatory. Like what the fuck are you even talking about? Did you waste my time again? Is this another wasting my time session? Yes or no? I want the app session. Please do not give me a 5 minute. If you give me a 5 minute app session, I will just leave the call. Right? I will.
I'm not about to cut you off, but look, since you guys seem to be going circular and getting tired, I'm gonna ask you both. Do you guys want to conclude it now?
Wait, let me respond to the
After
little
this point.
gibberish fest that you had. Let me respond to the gibberish fest, and then we
Gibberish,
can
you
conclude.
can understand
Yo,
English,
please mute him. Yo,
motherfucker.
mute him. Yo,
English,
mute him. Mute him.
motherfucker,
Mute him. You're saying that I don't understand English, but you're mispronouncing almost every single concept that I've used so far because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Whenever you comment on how you don't see that there exists a sufficient explanation, or there doesn't exist a sufficient explanation, or what I said doesn't actually entail a sufficient explanation, I want you to justify that. Because I already gave some analyticity when it comes to the contradiction point and how obviously that's going to be constrained to a physical model. That's going to be something which sufficiently explains this new information being something which entails my conclusion successfully. You just making a claim broadly because you don't know what the fuck the point is, that there doesn't exist some sufficient explanation doesn't entail that there exists a lack of a sufficient explanation. What that does for the debate is just shows that you don't know what the fuck is going on, which is why you're just asserting random shit. I don't give a fuck if you see why it's the case. It seems as if you're going circular. The fuck? You dumbass bitch. Your seemings are something which are not correlative, okay? They're incorrelative. They don't respond to fucking anything. I want you to explain why it's an insufficient explanation when it comes to my conclusion. You dumbass bitch. You're not understanding any of the fucking claims. I apologize any of the positions. Let's conclude, bro.
All right, so
I find it really funny that he keeps saying I'm when I'm misusing terms, he uses the term mispronouncing. You're mispronouncing all these words. And I think he's using the word mispronouncing in a way to be misusing, which also kind of goes at the point where he doesn't know English, because that's something a person who knows English would know, what the word mispronouncing means. So I think that's really fun. But look, so my broad point is, it seems like I had my time wasted on the internet again. So I'm gonna give this as a open call out to any debater who keeps pinging me in chats to debate me. If you're going to waste my time like this, I'm not going to want to talk to you again. I'm not going to want to speak to you again. Do not waste my time like this. This goes for you too, Kenna, who kept fucking banging up my DMs constantly for this. Do not waste my time. This was a trivial nothing burger of a gibberator who doesn't actually read any philosophy and only learned philosophy from Discord osmosis and listening to his good old daddy, Tron. So thank you, everybody, and good night. Y'all can run the polls, but all of y'all are retarded, and
that's your conclusion?
Yeah, that's my conclusion.
Okay, I got you. Yo, the nigga right now. What you looking at, nigga?
Bro, he was so nervous to the point. No, chill. Let me conclude that you can call him retarded after, everybody, because I understand how excited you are, or how you are to call him retarded. Look, one, he was stunlocked. He didn't even know what the fuck to say. He didn't know who to call my daddy because he doesn't know who the fuck I am. No, Tron is not my daddy. I barely talk to Tron. Tron does not end me. Tron is way better than you, by the way, but I don't even watch Tron debates. I've never watched a Tron debate in my life, but I'm pretty sure he actually destroyed with you, which is probably why you mentioned him. Secondarily speaking, I was talking about mispronunciation, not misusage. You dumbass retard. Both the context and what I said point towards the fact that I'm talking about mispronunciation. I wasn't saying that you were misusing any terms, even though you were. I wasn't making a claim that you were misusing any concept of terms. I was saying that you were mispronouncing terms, which is obviously what you failed to track. I'm not even sure if I can mimic your mispronunciation, considering how terrible it was. You were saying I apologize. When it comes to neuroplasticity, you were saying so I don't even know what the fuck you were saying. I don't know how to pronounce what the fuck you did. But look, as a closing, do I feel like concluding? Yeah, careless. Should I give a conclusion, bro? In terms of the arguments?
It's a little Anthony.
I don't know, bro. I mean, I guess. Yeah, so one, he didn't respond to the ideologically. Yeah, he didn't respond to how my theory, when it comes to my hypothesis regarding physicalism, or in other words, my materialism is going to be something which is more ideologically parsimonious. If it is the case that the immaterialistic mind has no interactive power with all these physical systems, or in other words, all these phenomena, I apologize. So if it's the case that obviously it's going to be redundant when it comes to the immaterialistic position, those points were separated, by the way. The redundancy and the ideological parsimony point is going to be something which are separate, but I do correlate them sometimes. They're going to be separate overall. But he didn't respond to how it's going to be more ideologically parsimonious, given that I can explain all these phenomena with brain states alone, or in other words, a physical system alone, while he's going to want to commit to both an immaterialistic system and a materialistic system, or in other words, a physical system and a non-physical system. Because if it's immaterialistic, let me just clarify the correlation between the two so everybody understands. If it's immaterialistic, I take that to mean it's aspatial. If it's aspatial, that means it's non-physical. If it's physical, that means it's spatial. If it's spatial, that means it's materialistic. So that's going to be the correlation. He's going to want to say that he's able to explain both these phenomena through an immaterialistic system, in other words, a non-physical system and a physical system, which is obviously going to be something which is less ideologically parsimonious in comparison to just reducing these phenomena to a physical system, or in other words, a physical constraint. When it comes to the non-virtuous points that we were talking about, I gave a non-artificial proof by contradiction. I'm going to have to reduce my position in virtue of all the alternatives being impossible, because he just named all these positions that he doesn't actually understand. You have the non-constraint positions, which are going to have some type of influence, reflection, or interactive power. I apologize, influence, reflection, or movement. All those types of concepts, and those are just examples. It's not limited to that. But all those types of concepts are going to have to entail interactive power. However, interactive power is going to be something which is impossible, given that these abstract entities, in other words, these immaterialistic entities, are going to be aspatial and atemporal, because temporality is going to be something which is represented through space, under my view. So it's going to be relativistic through spatial action and spatial interaction. It's a case that obviously you cannot have interactive power between a non-physical and physical entity. But not only that, it is also the case that immaterialistic beings cannot have interactive power, because it follows that interactive power entails power. Power is going to be expected only under a physicalist hypothesis. I apologize. Hypothesis, under my view, is going to be expected under some physical system. He didn't actually respond to how that's going to be something which is expected under a physical system. When it comes to neuroplasticity, it seems as if, and this is a point that I would really like to highlight, and he's going to act like he responded to it, but he didn't. When it comes to the neuroplasticity, it follows that that's going to entail adaptation from new knowledge. The new knowledge is going to be gained off of the subjective first-hand experience, which is going to be named qualia for the sake of the debate, meaning that there exists interactive power between qualia, in other words, this first-hand subjective experience and the information you're gaining, alongside the adaptation that your brain is creating. If that follows, that means that this process is going to have to be under some physical constraint, or physical constraint, considering that there exists power for this process. Think of it like a system, or think of it as machinery. For the machinery to operate and perform the process of creating honey buns, or in other words, dildos for this gay ass bitch, it has to be the case that it has power. Well, in this situation, power is going to be something which is only expected under physicalist position, or in other words, a non-materialistic position, because we're talking about mind power or brain power. It's the case that there is no power in which allows for the process in a situation where there exists neuroplasticity relative to the adaptation of new knowledge, which is going to be gained off of the a posteriori, I apologize, the posteriori's. So it follows that there does have to exist power. If there exists power, then it cannot be explained, or in other words, reduced down to some immaterialistic state of affairs. It has to be reduced down to some materialistic state of affairs. And boom, boom, boom. When it comes to the empirics that I said, he didn't respond to most of the empirics. He only responded to one site. I explained how it's going to be true in virtue of what the concept is itself. So it's going to be true in virtue of the conceptual schema, my understanding of the concept, all the priors I have regarding the concept, all the beliefs I have regarding the concepts overall. He didn't explain how the concept didn't actually entail my position. But not only that, it's the case that independent of this type of concept, Fleur is really terrible. This is really bad. Independent of this type of concept, I don't have to say that it's expected under the physicalist position that there exists some type of knowledge regarding the reducibility of qualia to the brain or physical phenomena. I can say that due to our current restrictions, I apologize, due to our current knowledge, there exists some epistemic restriction. Due to our current beliefs, there exists some type of epistemic restriction. Due to our current technology, there exists some type of epistemic restriction. He just didn't respond to that point at all. He went circling the entire time. At one point in the debate, he tried to call my explanation insufficient. Let's try to reason with why he said this. Now, the reason why he just said my explanation or my point was insufficient in terms of an explanation is because he didn't know what the point was. This is what low tier debaters do when they didn't track a point. They try to give more broad responses because they don't know what the fuck they're responding to. So what he said was that my explanation is insufficient. But anybody who is actually listening understands that that's trivially false. Also, I just like to comment on that point as a side point real quick. Whenever I made the claim that my position was trivial, I kept on clarifying that it's trivial when it comes to competent debaters or competent people such as Careless Me, etc. All these people know that it's trivial because it's obviously true. But that doesn't mean to say that it's trivial overall, as in the position isn't controversial. My position is going to want to say that the mind, I apologize, all these phenomena are reducible down to some physical system. Obviously, that's controversial. A lot of people disagree with physical systems being the thing in which supervenes everything. Obviously, that's controversial as fuck. So that's the escape that he used. He tried to use that as a coping mechanism to lead the debate. He wanted to keep on saying that my position was trivial, or if it's trivial, then I don't really disagree, blah, 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 blah. That's called coping. That was the excuse that he was using to run away from the position, even though he knows damn well it was controversial, which is why we went to the constraint, non-constraint model. The non-constraint model is going to tell a contradiction. The constraint model is going to tell redundancy or contradiction, considering that all these positions may not announce the fact that they're going to be non-constraint models, even though consequentially speaking, they are constraint models. But yeah, like I said, there could be epistemic restrictions relative to the access of reducible domains for qualia, for example. I also said that the brain doesn't have to be the only requirement when it comes to a reducible domain for qualia, even though I gave an explanation as to why it is going to be reducible inside to the brain. He just didn't respond to everything. I'm sorry, like this is so low tier. Like y'all philo niggas, bro. Y'all niggas be putting anybody at the top of the tier list, bro.
All right. That's the conclusion, bro. That shit was 5 minutes, damn.